And we're on. Okay. Please discuss with your group members situations in which you have employed the various sources of power and influence referenced by Hackman and Johnson. Work to tie those experiences to your role as a leader or as a follower. Finally, discuss ways in which cultural differences may influence the way we interact with leaders and employ power. So I guess like the culture part was kind of like the response we did last week, I guess. About like the patriarchal society. One second, I'm pulling this up really quick. I guess culture is in chapter 10. And so our book defines culture as, zoom in. It's a unique way of seeing the world based on particular assumptions, values, rituals, stories, practices, artifacts, and physical settings. These same elements make up the cultures of larger groups.
But yeah, you're right about what you're saying with the discussion thing I think that we did last week, how different cultures, like different styles of leadership are accepted in them, and different ways of communicating are more respectful, I guess, or common in cultures.
Yeah, are all of us from like the United States? Like, I guess I'm trying to see if we're like raised in a similar cultural perspective.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so, yeah, I know. In my response, I was like thinking about, I commented on like countries in Asia and how like they have higher context sort of communication style words, not what their words are saying, but what they mean behind it and that stuff. Whoa. And how it's like respect of the elders and the man of the house and stuff. And I was like, that's not how I'm raised. I'm like, I mean, sort of like my parents co-parent is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think parenting is a form of leadership.
Oh yeah, the main form, definitely.
Let's talk about the power and influence that Hackman and Johnson were talking about. Let me pull that up really quick.
Okay.
So I guess basically power is the ability to influence others. And like you can't be a leader without that power. But if you take advantage of that power, you're not a good leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say, yeah, I agree that it's like you have to find that balance between like when is appropriate to like exert power, and like that goes back to kind of like week one and like what qualities make a good leader and what doesn't. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the book like quotes and it says like power is the capacity to translate intention into reality and sustain it, and leadership is the wise use of power. So yeah, basically that's that.
Hi. So like we go through like the specific sources of power like that.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
So it was coercive power, reward power, legitimate power, expert power, reference power, and ecological power. So
I was kind of looking at the response. I'm sorry, Tess, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I was kind of looking at the response last night for our chapter 5 reading response, and it was again talking about these types of power and like examples of how you use them. And I guess that's kind of what our prompt is saying now. Situations which you have employed the various sources of power. So I just thought back to my internship currently. I'm working for Northwestern Mutual doing financial planning for clients and whatnot. And the type of power that would say are most prevalent in my job is the reward power. And reward power is like giving somebody a reward, like whether it be a health benefit or a higher pay raise or something on that scale. For us, how we reward our clients, we like give them financial stability, we give them security, allowing them to know like the direction they're headed in, you know, so kind of that reassurance. And then expert power was another huge one, and experts talking about being perceived as an expert, having credentials or a degree or certifications and whatnot. In the insurance field, they're very sticklers about having your credentials, like making sure you can't solicit stuff in certain states. And so that's, I would say, a huge thing that I work with every day, and is making sure I'm credible, making sure I have all my certificates up to date, making sure I know what I'm talking about. So that was kind of the two main ones that I thought out of like the sources of power that I use day in and day out, just staying credible for clients and stuff like that.
That's really cool. Like on a side note, your job's really cool, but like also I think you're absolutely right. Like that sounds like exactly like expert and reward power. So that's awesome. I'm a nanny, so I nanny like young children. Like so the family I'm with on Tuesdays and Thursdays is a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I definitely use reward power every day of my life when I'm with them. You want a lollipop? Sure. You can have a lollipop. Let me just change your diaper really quick. Basically my life.
Definitely.
I work with kids too, and I feel like I use that all the time. Like, if you do this, I'll give you a stamp or a sticker or whatever. But I feel like I also sometimes like use coercive power in like, okay, if you're going to do that, then we're not going to do this, or we're not going to, like, you're not going to be able to participate or whatever, too. I feel like those two kind of go really hand in hand.
I agree. That's a really good point.
I think, Aaron, for you and Tessa, even referent power would be a huge one in like the nanny field. Just talking about being a role model and influencing people's behaviors. So I feel like you guys use that all the time, too. I mean, I can't speak for you both, but...
No, actually, you're so right. Like, and thank you. Thank you. I like to think of myself as a role model. But yeah, I never even thought about that. That's so true.
I'm a leasing professional at an apartment complex, so I'm like more on like the expert side where I have to be credible. I have to know like all the questions when I'm giving a tour. So just like I feel like I have to be credible and know all my stuff for like the prospective clients or prospective residents that come in, because it's going to look like unprofessional if I don't.
Yeah, that kind of has to do with like legitimate power, I too feel like, because like that's your position to know all of that stuff. Like it's not personal if you don't know it, but it just looks bad on your position if you don't.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yep.
I'm a server at a restaurant, and I feel like the two we use most are reward power and coercive power. So, like, if we sell 10 beers, we'll get, like, a free shift meal or something like that. But our last manager only used coercive power, and nobody respected her after a while. Nobody, like, wanted to work. Nobody, like, wanted to do good at their job. Whereas, like, now when we have the reward power that we're using more, everyone like is really motivated. They want to sell stuff. They want to like just give the customers a good...
Yeah.
So it's like all about like in your team, like your waitressing team or serving team, and you have what, a manager?
Yeah, so we have 4 managers, and then there's probably like 50 of them.
Oh, okay. So they're really trying to make it like a marketing aspect, like or a sales.
Yeah, so that's what we really focus on.
Okay, that's interesting. Like with that, like remember, like maybe it was last week. I can't remember what chapter we were talking about, like managers and stuff, like, and how it's like you can be a manager, but like you're not necessarily a good leader. like, would you say your managers are good, like the ones you have currently are good leaders, like minus the one that was not good?
Yeah, currently we have like a really good management team. I feel like just in the restaurant industry, the managers like come in and out, so we'll have like a good team for a few months, and then we'll get like a really bad manager, like the power example.
Yeah. That's a really good example, Bonnie. I feel like that's kind of like what it talks about on what section's called deciding which types of power to use, and it talks about like combining soft power with hard power to make smart power. And I feel like they probably really listened to you and like your coworkers and tried to figure out like what way would be the best way for them to have like an effective like serving team and like make good money.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anybody like in their profession, workplace, like do you guys get to use or like have a say in like leadership decisions like that? Like I was just looking in the book where it said like the powerless talk things, like the hesitations, the hedging, the tag questions, disclaimers, stuff like that, where you're like, or I kind of think this, and then, but I was just wondering if like anybody takes part in that kind of thing. Not so much.
Sorry, I don't. It's like burgers are behind me, but I work at a car dealership, and so I'm like one of the only women here, and so it's like I'm a receptionist also, so I'm just kind of like naturally in a lower tier of power, I guess, and so it's like the following followership, whatever that word is more like submissive, I guess, naturally, just because I kind of have to listen to what is said and just like accept it, I guess.
Oh, so they don't ever ask you anything.
No.
Sometimes my bosses will ask me on like minimal decisions, but if it's like company wide or for the building, then like they won't really listen to me.
Gotcha. I just bought a car like this summer, so car dealerships scare me. I was emotional.
Courtesy Volvo. It'll treat you right.
What time are we at? Did we start at 34?
Yeah, we started at 34.
Yeah, I think we should be good.
Yeah. Great conversation, guys. See you Monday.
Awesome.
Thanks. Are you
See
gonna
you
say
later.
something, Erin?
Bye.
Bye.